All right, guys. Clint from the Doorway 2, hanging out with Eric from Play Gear. Thanks for doing this tonight. Really, really fucking appreciate it, man. Like, really digging the record a lot right now. So,
Oh yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
absolutely. So, I kind of want to talk a little bit about the last record or EP versus this record as well, because they seem to have very similar feelings and vibes to them. Like, I wouldn't say there's a drastic departure at all. And I kind of want to just see how you feel like literally the difference between the two records are. Is there any drastic changes between the two, or do you feel like it's more just an evolution, a progression? It almost just sounds like it's maybe a little stronger produced or a little thicker sounding, like in my personal opinion. So
Yeah, the only thing we wanted to do, like from Unholy into Circle of Darkness, was really kind of, give you the same kind of thing, like what you would expect, and then just do some songs that kind of push the boundaries a little bit for us, for example, like Evil One or No Respect for the Law, World in Blood, like those kind of songs to me are like the ones where we kind of like step out of our box a little bit, and show you like other things we're able to do. That way, when we go to the next record, we can even do even more stuff, and go from there. But yeah, that was the goal, and definitely, we've put a little more. We were able to put a little more money into the
yeah.
recording this time, so the quality was better for sure. And then Arthur is always the fucking man, so.
Nice. No, very cool. That's kind of what I heard. And then outside the box thinking, I kind of agree. Circle of Darkness is the new record. It's got a little more melody and a little more change ups on it than the first record, in my opinion as well too. So that's a really good way to kind of introduce everybody to what we're
Yeah.
talking about. Um, so if I offend, I never mean, but I just call it as I see it. So I just want to kind of start it like this. Um,
Okay.
so the three bands that if I had to merge you together with to say like I hear the sound in are as
Hmm.
follows. I'm gonna say it's like one third Hatebreed, one third Creator, and one third Entombed. Like that's really kind of the vibe that yeah, like you have that dirty, nasty kind of shouty hardcore moments. You
Hmm.
have that really great, it's not Bay Area thrash. It's really kind of that old school German, or I'd almost say like maybe power trippy as well too, like in that kind of vibe where it's that dirty old school kind of thrash where it doesn't have tons of melody. It's the power and driving of it. And then again, that really ugly, nasty Swedish melodic death metal guitars. Like that's kind of what I hear. If I am completely fucking out of the picture, you let me know. Like what brought you to this? Like if am I close? Am I, am I way off? You tell me.
I mean, the three bands that I always use to describe us is like Slayer, Sepultura, and with corpse riffs. Like that's the way I always describe it. But
Nice.
yeah, like it's definitely all in the same realm for sure. I mean, we all love those bands too.
Yeah.
What really started the project, like me and my drummer Mike, we've been working on this for a long time, a lot longer than 2016. It's just been something that never really came together at the right time. And so we started really writing this kind of stuff. Not necessarily this style that we're at right now. Before it was kind of like more, honestly, like more like Iron Age worship, because that was kind of the band that made us really
Gotcha.
be like, oh man, like we need to do some shit like this, because they came out and completely blew our fucking minds. And it's just kind of evolved from there. We as the years went on, we were kind of like, okay, let's start incorporating some more like Slayer stuff and Sepultura, and let's kind of try to turn this into our own sound, and that's pretty much where it came from. I mean, I'm always going back to those same records from Slayer, Sepultura, Dark Angel, stuff like that.
Yeah, you can hear the Dark Angel for sure. So I can definitely
Oh
respect that.
yeah.
Um, so my big question is the record sounds like and I know it's coming from a guitar player's perspective, so you tell me. But the record sounds like it's really layered this time. So, um, are it looks like it's you on guitar alone right now, right? You don't have anybody else like playing rhythm anymore, or things like that.
Yeah.
Maybe live, but like, did you track everything yourself, or did you have some people help you? Like, it just sounds so big compared to just like one guitar or so.
No, I did all myself.
Nice.
it's kind of ironic because on Unholy Infestation, I did 4 guitar tracks layered, so it's 2 on each side for the rhythms. On Circle of Darkness, Nick Morris talked me out of it. He was like, "Man, we just need to do 1 on each side," and I was not really feeling it, to be honest with you, because I've always done, you
Yeah.
know, 2 on each side. And so, you know, he convinced me otherwise, and I just kind of had faith in it, I guess, you know, and it came out way, you know, way better. And the reason for that is because, you know, a lot of bands, if they do the quad track, most of the time they're doing multiple tones, which multiple tones is like honestly pretty much impossible to make sound like a cohesive unit. You're going to get a lot of muddiness. So I just did 1, you know, same guitar player, because that's the other thing a lot of bands will do too. If they got 2 guitar players, they'll have 2 guys playing, you know, each rhythm part. Then you're going to have differences, you know what I mean, regardless of, even if it sounds spot on, just everyone plays different. So I do it all by myself, just 2 tracks, and man, it came out way harder. I just think, you know, it's kind of the less is more theory, you know.
Yeah.
If you give someone, you know, I gave Arthur just those 2 guitar tracks, and it came out arguably like fatter sounding than Unholy, you know.
Yeah. Cool. No, and that's what I was saying. It sounds massive. So with 2 guitar tracks, you know, hallelujah, man. Like that was pretty impressive for a record like that. So I kind of want to ask, if somebody was to listen to Circle of Darkness for the very first time and they've never heard you as a band before, how would you explain or introduce the band to someone that has never heard you guys before?
You know, I think we fit in like the realm of, you know, if you just like metal in general, we reach out to death metal kids, thrash metal kids, you know, anyone who's really into heavy music. You know, if you're a fan of heavy, fast music, you're gonna love us. You know, I think we definitely relate to, you know, a very wide audience of people. You know, not just like a niche kind of thing. So if you like really fast, relentless music, I mean, you're gonna fuck with us for sure.
Cool. So that's kind of the other thing I wanted to ask, because there's a lot of old school vibes in what you do. And I'm an old man. I'm 48 years old. All right. I'm no kid. I've been I've been in bands, listening to music, running labels like since I've been 20 years old. So I've been doing this since the late 80s, early 90s. And you really have that kind of, like, I almost want to say mid 90s, like when metal was a dirty word kind of vibe, like when all this other music started pushing really underground music out, and you guys kind of have that. What was that? I know you talk about Sepultura, I know, and Slayer and stuff like that, but were you trying to bring back those kind of golden years? Because it almost feels like it's a lot more than just Slayer and Sepultura. Like you guys really kind of, I don't know if you had older friends or other bands that like, hey, check this out, check that out, and like they kind of gave you this music as little kids, and you guys were like, God damn, this is cool, and this is what we want to do. Was that kind of the? It's just kind of the vibe I'm getting. Is that what you guys did or no?
Yeah, I mean, my favorite era of metal is like, you know, the early 90s is, I
Yeah.
think it's just the best times, you know, the Scott Burns era really, you know, like everything was just so fucking heavy sounding, and you know, everyone was fucking on one. I felt like, you know,
Mhm.
it's definitely, I feel like, you know, the late 80s is good. I mean, I love all that shit too, but it seems like right when the 90s came, you know, around, everybody got like heavier, you know, shit got a lot more like raw sounding, you know, and that's definitely what we're going for. You know, I don't really ever want to stray too far from that ever.
Yeah, in my opinion, Tampa happened and the whole world changed, man. That's basically, you're absolutely right. I'm totally with you on that. Um, so this is going to be subjective for you, and I kind of like really kind of like to see from a band side. If you had to say, are you more a thrash metal band? Are you more a death metal band? Like, which direction do you think that you follow?
I think I get asked this quite like a lot because I've done some interviews where they'll be like, they'll straight up say we're a death metal band. I've done some interviews that straight up just say we're a crossover band, you know, or thrash. In my opinion, I think we're, you know, thrash metal. That was kind of like the goal, really. At, you know, like we're going to be looked at as a thrash band, but we're going to have death metal parts. You know,
Mhm.
I mean, if you listen to the music, I feel like it's a good like 60-40 ish mix,
Okay.
you know, maybe even 70-30, you know, thrash to death metal. So but I definitely consider us a thrash band for sure.
Cool. So I'm gonna put my 2 cents into this because I really kind of want to have this back and forth conversation with you. Um, I I don't hear much death metal. I really hear a ton of thrash and a ton of old school hardcore. And I think the thing is, old school hardcore can be mistaken for death metal, especially the kind of hardcore I'm talking about, like, the hate breeds of the world and things like that. They're very easily interchangeable into that death metal world because, in my opinion, a lot of the more brutal, like, you guys remind me so much of a band from Ohio called Integrity, and like there's just there that is like the sweet spot of metal and hardcore for me. Like they blur the lines in the most brutal ways. And the first time I heard you guys, like I swear to God, I thought it was like the second coming of Integrity. Like that's like that's the kind of sound, straight down to the way the vocals are. They're so throaty, but yet they're so powerful. The weakness on hardcore is sometimes, and this is not to be rude to any hardcore bands, sometimes the vocals are really shitty and they make the kind of record lose its vibe. Where like your record, the vocals are so powerful. This is kind of where I wanted to interplay into the next question was, uh, when you're recording the actual songs, the tracks to make a complete record, is there a lyrical concept first, or are you guys writing the music and then the lyrical ideas happen? Because I when it's this powerful, normally you have some lyrical ideas first to be able to throw those riffs in. I kind of would love to hear about a little bit about that.
For me, the music pretty much always comes first, and then I'll change like once I have the music
Mm.
written, and then I start writing the lyrics. I'll like notice that, oh, if I change this little part, it's gonna make the lyrics or like the vocal pattern sound cooler, or oh, I can use this, whatever. So it'll change to the vocals. But yeah, usually the music comes first. I'm a songwriter first and foremost, riff writer first and foremost. Lyrics is something that's been new to me. But as I've, even when I'm writing this new stuff, now the vocal patterns and stuff like that start to come to me as I'm writing.
Okay.
But some songs, like, I've been so inspired. Like sometimes I'll write a song, like Evil One, for example. After I wrote that song, literally the next day, I was so into that song, I wrote the lyrics the next day. I just like had to get it done. I had a melody in my head. I was like, I got to get this out of my head now. But some of them take, longer, just a matter of either inspiration or like, I feel like I get stuck at a part. There's a lot of times I'll be like, I know what I want, but I can't quite figure out the best way to do it. The constant battle is trying to not sound corny. That's
Sure,
like
sure.
the constant, like, does this sound good? This isn't corny, right? But yeah, like even sometimes I've had to force myself to write the lyrics even right before I hit the studio, or the next day I got to record the parts or whatever.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, you could definitely hear that the vocals are definitely a focus around the music you're creating. So that's really cool. Like, and that's one of the things that definitely drew me to the record. Um, so live versus the studio. I know we live in a really fucked up time right now, and nobody's
Yeah,
really
it's
and much at all.
fucked.
Yeah, all right. I, I have never spent 9 months and not be able to go see shows. It's the craziest shit in the world to me right now. Um, and
It's insane.
yeah, so live versus the record. Are we going to see any differences? Like once you can get out on the road and play, how is the live band versus the studio band? Like, are they spot on, identically the same, or are there nuances?
I mean, we actually add like little like little parts sometimes of the endings that you wouldn't hear on the record and stuff like that. But for the most part, man, I mean, we're a machine live. I mean, when people see us live, that for the most part we get really good reactions. Like, because I mean, we're on point. We grind. Mike's an incredible drummer. I mean, really at the end of the day, the drummer makes or breaks the band live. And Mike always crushes it. So. I mean, we definitely when you get to see us live, it's a fucking machine. That's why best way I always like to describe it.
Very cool. So politics aside, uh, your lyrical content is pretty intense. Okay, it's not all right. It is not for the weak at heart. All right. And I kind of want to talk a little bit about the themes of this record. Like, were these from day one the ideas at hand, or as you were writing the record and the obviously the world got more fucked up, I'm sure, as you were writing this record, uh did that change the philosophy of the album, or from day one did you, like you said, I know sometimes you say right before you go into studio you're writing lyrics, but was the majority of the idea or content already ready to go when you went in the studio?
Um, I had like, so like I wrote the record was completely done and finished in October of last year.
Okay.
So it didn't have any effect on, the pandemic or anything like that. Which is funny. I've had a lot of people ask me that with like, especially with like the song "No Respect for the Law." They're always, they pretty much,
It's gonna ask. So
yeah, they pretty much think that it's because of, all the recent stuff that's been going on, which is fucked up too, But I wrote that song beforehand because I've always just been really into, like wrongful convictions and just like prison reform and stuff like that. Like it's just something I've always been really interested in. Even more specific, I watched two documentaries, one being the Khalif Browder story and the other one being the documentary 13.
yeah.
And the Khalif Browder thing, if you haven't watched it, I mean, it's sad, man. It's just super sad. And then 13 really helps you understand, it's a very brief thing that helps you understand why the law and the way that it is fucked up, and it is essentially the next, it's slavery, and so that song too, like that's one of the songs I knew I was gonna write about.
Okay.
Sometimes they just kind of come. Like I don't even. Sometimes I literally have to like go searching for some inspiration. Sometimes it's whether it's a matter of like watching a doc or reading some article or just something. Sometimes I'll see one sentence and it's like, oh shit, I really like that.
Gotcha.
Or sometimes I get a lot of stuff from I listen to a lot of rap, so like sometimes I'll pull some things I hear in a rap song and switch it around, but it'll be like inspiring to me, like okay, now I have something to work with,
Sure.
and sometimes it just comes off the top of my head. It's just all random, really, to be honest with you. Lyrics
Okay.
is the hardest thing to write, in my opinion, for me anyway. It's real hard to you know feel like you're coming up with new ideas and being able to use like other words and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Sure. So I'm just gonna say they're really powerful messages, regardless, and that's why I was saying politics aside, I don't give a shit if you're the left or the right, but like
Yeah,
the message itself is just a really powerful message. And for a lot of kids today, if they actually sit down and listen to a record, I know that's a big shocker. Like if you
for
can get them
real.
to listen to more than two or three goddamn songs, it's a miracle, all right? But if you sit down and like fully listen to this record, there are some really powerful messages. So I just wanted to say like mad kudos to that as well, because
Thanks, man.
in metal today, I think that's missing a lot. It's all about how brutal, how gory, how occult driven you can be, and sometimes we really just need topics that matter at this point in time. So
Hmm.
no,
Yeah,
so
I agree. Yeah, for sure.
cool. Um, so again, no offense, you tell me, but this is the strangest thing in the world to me. How the fuck did you sign to E1 Records? Because it almost feels like it's this really weird label for you, because the bands that are on there, minus one or two, really are not as brutal or heavy as you in any way, shape, or form.
The story about how we got on E1 is honestly pretty crazy and very just random. Like when we dropped Unholy Infestation, the goal was, get this record out and record it. Most demos or EPs, they're fairly like done,
Yeah,
with a low budget and the quality is, okay, whatever. But we wanted to make sure when we dropped this EP that it was going to turn heads because of the production was there, the songs were there, the whole package. So, I had faith that something would happen. Trevor, my singer Tim, he's good friends with Trevor from the Black Dollar Murder.
yeah.
They've known each other for quite a while, and he happened to listen to the record and he just loved it, and so he posted it on his Instagram. And then because he did that, Joel Grind seen it, and then Joel clicked it and he's seen that Arthur had mixed and mastered it, and him and Arthur have worked together before, like on Nightmare Logic.
Sure.
And so he was like, "Who is this band, and why is Arthur fucking with them?" I mean, literally, that's what he said, you know. And I've known Arthur for like 10 years or more at this point, and he's a really good friend of mine. So he hooked me up. I mean, he did me a huge favor for doing that. And once Joel Grind heard it, he sent us his manager, and then his manager was talking with E1 because Toxic was looking for a new label because they were going to drop a new record. And in the same meeting, he just kind of slid in there. Hey, man, this is this new band that I'm working with. You know, they're real new. And E1 loved it. I mean, they believed in it. You know, we didn't have a real big following. We barely had, you know, toured or done anything. So they just heard the music and they were like, yo, like this can do something, you know. We had some other labels looking at us, but they were on the same thing. You know, you guys need to do more shows. You guys need to get a bigger following, socials up, blah, blah, blah. But E1 was ready to take us on, and they knew, you know, that they could help us get to the next level for sure. And the other thing too about E1 is I wasn't really too hip exactly on everybody that was on the label. And then when I went and looked, I mean, the metal side is pretty crazy. I mean, Sodom's on there, Crowbar, you know, Creeping Death, I Am, Toxic. I mean, they actually have a pretty High on Fire. I mean, they have a pretty crazy lineup. And then you look at the, you know, the bigger label, because we're on E1 Heavy, which is still E1, but they just kind of categorize it as all the heavier stuff. The other people they have, I mean, it's insane. I mean, they have big artists, you know, and it was just, you know, it was awesome. And shout out to E1, man. They've taken care of us. You know, they're the biggest independent label in the world, but I can call anybody in that label at any time. They're gonna answer the phone, talk to me, help me. You know, they're very cool.
Nice. I heard the same thing from Kirk from Crowbar. Like he literally said the same thing. He goes, "They are the biggest little label that I've ever worked with in my life." So you just gave me the same kind of vibe that he did. And yeah, no, I don't disagree. There's some really impressive bands on the label, but by far, like you are one of the, I would say, even on E1 Heavy, one of the most intense bands there are. So that's cool that they really dig that kind of style now, and they're hopefully there's hope for other bands that do your kind of stuff that you know the bigger indies are out there looking for you, so that's cool.
Yeah, they wanna, I mean, you know, they usually only fucked with pretty big bands,
Yeah.
you know. And now they're, you know, they're definitely taking a big stab at trying to get into the underground scene, or, you know. And you know, they've been signing a lot of bands, man. Just in the last year, I feel like they've signed a lot of bands. And you know, they just want to take it over and you know, show that, you know, they can take bands that are at a certain level and try to get them to the bigger platforms, you know, that they've taken other bands to. And it's great, man. Like I said, man, I love them. You know, they
Cool.
take care of us, and they're just, you know, extremely nice people, and it's great.
Cool. So I ask this question to every band, every artist, whoever I speak to, and I always get a different answer, and I just love this because it's something you're gonna have to think about, and I know it's not gonna be something you're gonna be able to throw at me in 10 seconds. All right. So if you could have any one band cover one of your songs and make it their own, who would you want it to be and why?
Oh man, I don't know.
I get
I
these
mean,
responses all the time.
it would be cool to, you know, a lot of my writing is based heavily on like Slayer, you know, like, I mean, I just I fucking love Slayer, you know, so it would be cool to hear some, like, I've always pictured in my head anyway, to always hear Tom Araya on some shit, you know what I'm saying? So
Nice.
it would be awesome to hear him, you know, to do one of our songs or something like that, because, you know, that's my main, especially when I'm doing vocals, or not me doing vocals personally, but when I'm writing the vocal patterns or lyrics, you know, he's one of my biggest inspirations for sure. You know, I just think he's a fucking badass.
Nice. Then we got to get Jeff Henneman back because, like, I think he's the only one that can really kind of do the sound you're looking for, man. I love Kerry King and stuff, but man, Jeff was just like, he was
Jeff's
the
the man, no doubt
yeah
about that.
he was the master of the Slayer sound as I'm gonna ever believe it. But yeah, no, very cool, man. Um, so I guess to twist off a little bit from there, um, are there any bands that you would ever want to try and cover and try and do interesting original, like maybe your own version or your own take? The thing I hate the most in this world, and I know it's kind of a diatribe, but I'm gonna say it, is when a band just flat out does a fucking cover of the song and it sounds identically the same. Like, what is the point? There is no point to that. Would you ever want to take a song? I mean, and it doesn't have to be Slayer or anybody like that. It could be some weird pop song that's been in your head that you want to twist and turn. I'll be honest, like my band, we're actually doing a Church's cover because like it's just like we decided we love one of these Church's songs off of one of their early records and we just went crazy with it and we love it. But like if you could do a song and make it your own, what band would interest you in doing something like that?
I've always wanted to do I mean my all-time favorite band is Metallica, and
Nice.
I've always wanted to do us covering Metallica but not singing it, obviously. And I think it would just be fucking hard as fuck. And we're down tuned, we're a full
Yeah.
step down, and that's something I've always wanted to do. I mean, I've always wanted to do like a full-blown Metallica cover set because I just fucking love that band. We have covered Sepultura before. It's kind of the same thing, but he's, it definitely sounded like Sepultura, but we have, we're a whole step down, so it's just way heavier
Yeah.
sounding. But
Very
yeah, definitely, I'd like to do Metallica or really any kind of, just any thrash band or whatever that I listen to that's kind of more singing vocal. I just think it'd be cool to hear it in a more aggressive way.
Very cool. So I'm gonna turn it in because you kind of brought it back to the thrash metal side. Uh, Power Trip, like it's a real bummer of what happened, and I think you could be another next guard for these kids. Um, if if you had any words of inspiration after probably their hearts being teared out after their favorite band in the world is probably gone forever and they don't know where to turn. What would you say to them as far as your three favorite thrash metal records to make them look at a big picture rather than just being stuck in that? And I know it's rude, but that power trip box. And you know what I mean? Like there are kids that just are stuck in this retro thrash world. Like what three records would you inspire them to listen to from the 80s straight to now?
The one thing, oh, something on my phone. The one thing I would say to people that, because we've been getting compared to Power Trip a lot, which is cool. I'm really good friends with those guys also. I've known them for a long time. We kind of came up at the same time when Power Trip first started with my other band. Riley was a really good friend of mine. So, I mean, it hurts with everything that happened for sure. I mean, I've been to that dude's family's house, met his parents. I
Sure.
mean, all kinds of stuff. Like I've known him for a long time. No one can ever take away what they did. Like I seen someone write sometime in an article saying something about we're gonna take the torch, or I'm not taking no torch from that band, bro. That band, what they did,
Sure.
and how they brought thrash and crossover into a new light and actually got on a bigger platform, is something that no one I think could replicate because they did it. And but what I would say to people that do lump all these new bands that are coming out into like, oh, this is Power Trip, Power Trip, whatever. Do yourself the favor. It's like, would you just get into music or something? Like, do yourself the favor
Yeah.
and go figure out why they sound the way that they do. I'm 31 years old, man. I mean, you think that, oh, they're the only one, who did this, and I'm just gonna do what they do? Like, nah, man. We listen to the same shit. Like, I don't, what do you really expect? And that is one thing that does get to me because it's just like, damn, that's just like the easiest thing to say. Oh, this is just like Power Trip. Well, yeah, we listen to the same shit. Not to mention we're all friends and shit. So I would say if you really want to understand where the sound is coming from, definitely go listen to Sepultura Rise. Go listen to, fuck any Slayer record, really. Rain and Blood or South to Heaven and Divine Intervention. Like those three are heavy rotation when I'm writing. And, Metallica. I mean, we, especially in those more mid-tempo songs, I mean, I'm definitely trying to channel Metallica like a motherfucker. So, go check out Master of Puppets or Ride the Lightning's my favorite record. But any of those three bands, man, and then it's real easy to put together what's going on. And shit, you might even hear some hard similarities, you know what I mean? Like because it's discouraging when you read an article and they just do that to you. You're just like, bro, like what the fuck, like.
Oh yeah.
How are you not hearing where this is coming from? You know what I'm saying?
I hate it. That's why I was kind of asking you this question. And the funny thing is, the bands that you just said influenced you, I hear nothing from, which is so awesome. Like that's what
Everyone's got, man. I've heard so many people tell me different stuff. I've heard, like, for example, like the beginning riff in Paradox of Death, bro. I've had someone tell me I'm ripping off Slayer. I've had someone tell me I'm ripping off Metallica. I've had someone tell me I'm ripping off Demolition Hammer. I've heard, all kinds of stuff,
that's
bro. It's funny. And then when I think about what I was doing, like when I was writing it in my head, what I'm taking it from, a lot of times it's totally different than what most people are hearing. It's crazy. I
and
heard
that's
someone I had someone tell me that they didn't hear no. I did an interview. This guy told me, I don't hear any thrash metal on your record. Like,
okay.
what? I was like, bro, what? He's
You're
like, I hear black
yeah.
metal and punk and hardcore. Like, you're tripping, bro. I don't know what you're on.
No, you're deaf. That's
Yeah,
definitely
I
what
was like, he was like, where is it? I was like, bro, I don't know, man. If you to go listen to the record again, I don't know what to tell you. If you don't, first song, if you can't tell it's thrash metal, bro, I don't know what to tell you. It was real strange.
That's what I was gonna say. So again, and this is just my personal interpretation of the band, and I just want to I love giving it to the other artists of other bands. I hear so much German thrash in you guys, man. Like it just screams, and not
I
just
mean, I
like,
definitely listened to a lot of Sodom and a lot of Creator for sure.
well, you can hear
So,
Sodom, and you
Sodom
can.
was a big influence, especially that record Agent Orange, like
Oh,
100%.
yeah, that's what I was saying. You can hear a lot of Sodom. You can hear a lot of Creator. Um, I'm almost going to say there's a lot of that Swiss too. Like I know you guys probably don't see it, but like at times, man, there are these corner grooves that you guys have that is just brutal. Like because you mix in, and I don't think you even do it on purpose. You mix in these kind of experimental proggy kind of, like they're like moments. They're not even like riffs. Like you'll just hear it and this weird time change will happen and I'll be like, holy shit, that sounds like Corner, or like holy shit, that sounds like Dark Angel. Like and that was another big band I was gonna say, like Dark Angel, like holy shit, like your drumming reminds me a lot of Hoagland in Dark Angel, like that your drummer style. So that's really cool that like everybody gets a little bit of taste of everywhere. Um, and that's kind of what I was going to ask is it four different minds coming together? What's making it is? Have you all listened to different music, or are you all basically just very similar in your music liking and just really creative on being able to expose or take the layers out of uh, the elements that you all like have the same joy and love for?
Um, Me and Mike are pretty much like the main, my drummer, Mike. I mean, we've been jamming for long, long time. And yeah, it's pretty much, I mean, it's this record, Circle of Darkness, was pretty much me. I wrote all the music just on my computer, which I've never done before. Normally I would be collabing a lot with Mike, and I was just kind of, I don't know, how to even explain it. Just like, I don't know, I'm in the zone or something. You know what I mean? Like I was just pumping out song after song after song, way faster than we could ever practice them or, anything like that. And they were just vibing with it, so I just kept running with it. And but my drum programming is not very good, so Mike definitely makes it, makes it bounce and adds a whole other element that I could never add, via a computer. But yeah, it's definitely me and him. I mean, and like you were saying earlier about how people will listen to it and get all these different influences. That makes me feel good because there's times when I'll write a riff and I'll be like, fuck, does this sound too much like, what I'm thinking, which I'm never going to say, but because there's been plenty of times I've been like, this riff does kind of sound like it, but you know what? I'm just gonna own it because I always kind of like that shit. When you can kind of tell when a band got something, as long as it's more like a homage than like a note for note ripoff. So when I hear other people say it sounds like different stuff, I'm like, okay, cool. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Because that they ain't putting it together, and I made it kind of my own. You know what I mean? So it's
Very
cool. But yeah, it's definitely me and Mike. I mean, for the most part, Tim. when I brought Tim in, our vocalist, he wasn't really listening to as much metal, the kind of metal that we were listening to. He's a way more like extreme kind of guy. He loves like Behemoth and shit like that. And he kind of had to go back on his own time and listen to these records because in his growing up, he didn't really have that influence in his life, and now he's like fucking way into it, and so yeah, it's pretty much just me and him for the most part.
Cool. So here's another subjective question. You answer it however you want. I miss the old days of being able to go to record stores and be able to hang out and just pick through records and just pick an album by an album cover. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Your cover to me reminds me of the days when I used to be a teenager and I'd be like, I have no idea what this fucking band sounds like, but I'm buying it on a cover alone.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel that that's missing in this day and age as well too? Or do you think it's coming back? Is there a rebirth with, this vinyl movement and things like that? I'm just kind of curious, being that there's a decade age gap between you and I, like what the old guard versus the next guard kind of feels.
I mean, I don't know necessarily about going to the record store because most records, for most of these bands, I mean, I'd say maybe 50% or even more aren't really probably going to be in a record store, for the most part. But I'm sure that same logic applies. I mean, real heads, they're gonna love the artwork. They're gonna love, I'm the same way. I have a pretty extensive vinyl collection, and I've just walked in there and not even just metal, but I got a bunch of jazz records, soul records, all kinds of stuff, and I'll just go in there and buy 3-4 records off the cover alone. I won't even. I'll have no idea who they are, but I'll look at this cover and I'll be like, this looks badass, whatever. And that's something I'll always have with all of our records. I want when you see it, I want you to be like, damn, that looks kind of crazy, and really get you intrigued, because that's what gets me intrigued sometimes, And a lot of times that's the first, maybe the only thing that someone might see before they even listen to you. So it's always very important. I feel like it's the harder thing is to get people that aren't heads or deep into metal, the kind of casual listener. Those are the ones that are a bit harder to get into something. You know what I mean? I don't think they really care as much about that kind of stuff as somebody like maybe me or you do. But
Yeah.
the artwork to me is always very, very, very important. And it's something that I've always been way into. If I see a new band dropping something and that artwork is crazy, I'm excited.
It's how I've picked up most of my industrial record collection. I'll tell you, I was just like, okay, I have no idea what this is, but I'm checking it out. No, it's very cool. So I'm gonna kind of wrap things up a little bit now. I again appreciate everything you've done. I'm gonna leave the floor for you right now. Talk about what the future holds. Talk about your new record. Tell us how we can get it. If there's anything you want to talk about, the soapbox is yours right now.
We got a live stream that we're going to be doing. We've been practicing, getting ready for that. I can't say a for sure date right now because it's still kind of being in the works with the label, but it's coming. So we got that coming up, so be on the lookout for that. We're about to do a new merch drop too, real soon. And then go pick up Circle of Darkness. It's hit us up on Instagram, Twitter at PlayGearsMI, Facebook, YouTube, all that shit, man. And hit us up. I mean, we love engaging with people, and go grab the new record.
Cool. So I'm going to end it with this. I know the new record just came out. It's kind of brand new. But do you have new tracks that you're starting?
Oh man, I'm on my 4th song right now, and I'm just kind of like, it's almost like purgatory, because it's like, you write music and I love getting it out. It's very hard for me to sit on something. It's just I get this like anxious feeling, like fuck, and then not to mention if I'm already in the writing mode, I like to write when it's time to write, and when I don't have to write, I don't want to write, because if I do start writing, then it's like I get back in that mode. Right now, it's just because of I got so much time on my hands, and I just been feeling inspired recently, and so Yeah, I'm about 4 songs in, and I'm just thinking like, "God, these songs ain't even gonna see the light of day for probably like a year, maybe 2 years." You know, it's like, fuck. You know, it's like purgatory. It's like, fuck, man. What am I? I'm torturing myself. You know.
So that's what I was going to ask, and we'll kind of close it on this. Direction of the new stuff you're doing drastically different, kind of in the same vein. Are we looking at more, experimentation? Like what's the future of Plague Years? Like what do you think the next record's going to be?
Oh, I don't really know, man. I mean, the songs that I have right now are definitely similar, but there's parts in them that you know you wouldn't have heard on Circle of Darkness for sure. I mean, I'm always trying to, every album I always want to give you what you expect, So there's going to be songs that are like, us, our
Hmm.
our kind of formula or whatever, and then I always want to give you something new, So I don't really know. I kind of have some ideas in my head of where I want to go, but I don't want to say anything right now,
That's
but
cool. Oh no, that's good, man. Like
but
leave us.
it's gonna keep being heavy and extreme, man. Trust me, for sure.
Just leave us wanting. Again, love the new record. Very, very, very happy. Been listening to it a lot. I definitely will put links to your Bandcamp, to your label, to your Facebook page, all that stuff. You ever do come to Arizona, man, I will definitely be there. We'll hang out. I definitely would love to, be able to see you live because I think it'd be an impressive kind of event. So, again, Clint from the Doorway too, man, hanging out with Eric. Really do appreciate it. I'm going to close it here and say thanks, man. Have a good night.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.